Hi everyone, my name's Eric Goins with Flywheel Studio, and today I want to talk about no code, low code versus visual development and a bit about each of them. This is one of the most common things that clients ask us or maybe don't know about in the beginning of the process when they come to work with Flywheel, and I imagine it's similar at other agencies as well. There is actually a really big difference between no code, low code, and visual development. Each have their pros and cons, but they are different in the way that you produce applications and how those applications run and function during the development process through deploying and in production. So let's talk first about no code. No code was a really, really big boom somewhere around, kind of starting in 2019. But if you think about it, it almost goes back to the early WordPress days. And we saw no code really appear in drag and drop websites. WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, Card, to name a few. And for a long time, that was all you could do. You could drag and drop these elements, they would sit on a website, and somebody could go visit that website and it looked great. And you did not have to write HTML, CSS, or JavaScript to go build that, which is amazing. Kind of in early 2019, 2018, 2019, 2020, we started seeing more application development platforms come out in the no code world. And so some of the earlier ones were Bubble and Adalo. And they were out some partially even before that, but that's when they really started becoming extremely popular as the platforms grew with a set of features and functionality that allowed you to kind of go build more than just templated applications without writing any code. Now, no code really to me symbolizes that the front end of the platform and the back end of the platform are both on the same platform. And that really enables you to build the application without writing any code to connect the two. And then they use a visual development or visual designer, I should say, in order for you to drag and drop elements onto a screen, like building a PowerPoint, and build an actual functioning application. The reason this is really important is that in software development, you have a front end, which is what's on the user's end phone. Okay. That's or on the website. Like this here, what you see here is the front end of the application. It is rendered on the server on the user side, for in this example, on my computer or on my phone. Now, this talks to the backend. The backend lives on a server somewhere. It could be AWS, it could be GCP or Google Cloud, it could be Azure, it could be anywhere. And those servers could be located anywhere as well. They could be in Iowa or Virginia or Europe or Asia. And to some extent, it doesn't really matter where they are. The front end connects to the back end. On platforms like Adalo and Bubble, the back end is attached to the front end. It's all on the same platform, and that really improves the speed of development for you as the developer or maybe you as the client. And that's really important because you don't have to write code to connect the two, which means that you can also be a citizen developer, which means that you can go and develop applications without a programming background. Now, there are some limitations to this. The application you develop runs on the platform itself. Okay. Secondly, the ability and capability of the platform is kind of limited to the features and functionality the platform has. So enter stage left, low code. Low code became really popular as people started hitting the boundaries of no code. And basically, what we said is it's a lot of no code, but you could use code. That's pretty powerful. Whenever you hit a limitation of the platform, you can then introduce code to that platform. And what you can do is build out more features and functionality. Sometimes that is limited by the platform itself. You can't always build everything you would like. But that said, a lot of platforms have done a great job of making themselves more extensible so that you hit less limits. Again, different platforms have done this to varying degrees. Bubbles is probably one of the more popular low code, no code web development platforms. there's a significant amount that you can do with integrations and code on the platform. At the end of the day, the the product that you build, the application or the software, still runs on Bubble. It's running on Bubble servers, and Bubble as a platform hosts and manages and maintains that. Again, it's typically noted as faster because there is an integrated front end and back end. And again, you're not using code. But if you're saying to yourself, I really just want to build an application without the dependencies of the platform, then we get into the world of visual development. Now, visual development's not actually that new. It's become really popular, but if you actually look at it and you look at how people develop Swift applications, which is an iOS or Apple app, Swift is to some degree a drag and drop platform. It is a visual development tool. It helps you build mobile applications through a drag and drop interface with the ability to write custom code, which is Swift as the underlying language. Today, I want to show you two platforms that we use at Flywheel that are visual development platforms, and I want to explain why we use them and some of the pros and cons. The first one here is FlutterFlow. If you know anything about us, you probably know that we're big on FlutterFlow. We just won one of the Agency of the Year awards, and that's because this has been an incredibly important platform for us and our clients. The reason for that is very simple. FlutterFlow combines the ability to bring in a traditional backend server in this application, which Flywheel owns, called Better Together. That's Firebase. So we're able to connect to Firebase directly to the front end through FlutterFlow's UI and build out and manage content directly through the FlutterFlow application. When you look at building a screen, you can actually go and see all the components on here, okay? And if you wanted to, you could simply bring in, drag and drop another component, okay? Now I'll take that out. You can see that this is all happening in real time, and behind the scenes, you actually have access to the code itself, okay? So we can go in and we can go see where this code is, all right? This is really important. No code and low code applications do not generate code that you can actually go use and edit. That is the number one difference. And that's really important when we're talking about an application like this, because what will happen is if you hit a barrier on the FlutterFlow application, you can go in and build custom components. You can build in custom functions. You can build in custom widgets. You can build in custom actions, and you can add custom files. In this example, we have this property to get the country. This is for country codes, okay? And you can see that this is code. This is Flutter or Dart. And we have a code copilot. We have a test function. All the things that you would actually think that you would see in a traditional development environment. We also have custom widgets. Okay. Now there's not really one here. Oh, sorry, there is. And what we can do is we can write these using Flutter or Dart language, just like you would in a traditional development environment. And then we can add those to our project and reference them here. There are a few other things that you would do that are similar to traditional or custom development. So we have branching, we have version control, we have between snapshots and versions. We have the ability to have different deployment environments. Okay. And we have dev environments. So we can add a production database, we can add testing, we can add basically almost anything we want, development. We can also add project dependencies, okay? So we can depend on Flutter and Dart packages or even other FlutterFlow projects, okay? And then all of this is very simple to test and deploy. We can run it locally. Again, very much like a traditional development environment. We can also run it online and test it in run mode or test mode here. And then when we want to, we can deploy it directly to the app stores from FlutterFlow. What does this mean for you? The first thing that I think about when we're developing an application for a client is the extensibility. It's really important for me as the agency owner that when we're working with somebody, that we're not going to hit a point in the project where we are going to tell that individual, that company, that team, whatever the scenario is, that we can't do something because there's a limitation on the platform. If you can do it in Flutter or Dart, we can do it in FlutterFlow. Okay. Now, some things will just not make sense. It's better to do a custom application at some point. But for the vast majority of use cases, this is an incredibly powerful thing to achieve whatever we need to achieve directly in FlutterFlow using the visual development and then augmenting it with custom code if and when necessary. The second thing that's super important to me is that we're using traditional backend services. When I look at the scalability of applications and the application uptime, as well as how we feel about the backend providers, I feel very, very strongly about using traditional services that we know are going to scale, that have been around for a long time. And at the end of the day, if you wanted to leave the visual development world, you could take the backend with you. Okay. These backends can go anywhere with any application. So if you moved to traditional or custom code, you could use the same database without performing a migration. Again, incredibly powerful. Teammates, a WeWeb project we have. WeWeb is similar, although there are some differences. So you have the ability to quickly drag and drop components onto a page. Okay. As you're using this, you can go in and you can create workflows and custom actions. Again, if there's something that you're not able to do directly in WeWeb, you can go in and create custom JavaScript actions or Vue.js components and integrate them directly into WeWeb. Again, we're not hitting any dependencies on the platform here. We also have the ability to publish these. We can publish using WeWeb hosting, or we can also, if we chose to, self-host. So we can take the code out of WeWeb and host it on our own, whether that's on AWS, GCP, whatever you prefer, we would be able to do that. Again, we bring our own backends to these. So in this scenario, we're using Supabase, an incredibly powerful and scalable backend application that provides authentication, edge functions, the database, basically the engine that drives the application itself. And we can choose where that's hosted. So we can choose a server location. Supabase runs on AWS. We can choose a server location for that Supabase instance that's closest to the majority of our users. Sometimes that's in Europe, sometimes it's in Asia, and quite often it's in the US. For me, you should choose the platform that's right for the product you are building. And for us, that almost always is a visual development platform because it gives us the extensibility to build any application without barriers, as well as the scalability, the information security, and the other features and functionality that come with traditional backend development environments. If you have any questions or you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to Flywheel Studio.